All right, folks, let's try this again, okay? Had to get another camera set up. My lighting is horrible in here. I got a video camera going on here to my right for my um, Rumble videos. But here's what I want to talk about today, folks. And I don't often talk about stuff like this, but I chose this topic because I do have a little bit of experience with law enforcement. No, I've never been a cop, and I'll explain later. I watched the videos on these recent, most publicized shootings and the conviction of, let me put my glasses back on here, Derek Chauvin. And he was convicted on all three counts. As you all know, second degree unintentional murder, third degree murder, and second degree manslaughter. And he will appeal this. And let's see, there was 6 whites and 6 blacks on the jury. And so they come to the conclusion that he was guilty. Now, back when this happened, when George Floyd was, this incident happened, okay. And I'll explain why I put it that way here in a minute. I watched this. I watched the video. I watched everything that took place. All that I could get my hands on, I watched it. Excuse me. And it was hard to watch. It was obvious that George was on drugs, and it just wasn't. It wasn't. You could just tell. Believe me, I know. And however, when they had George subdued, when they had him cuffed and had him in the back of the car, and he starts going on about he's not able to breathe, and he gets out of the car. Chauvin throws him to the ground. Him and his buddy get on top of him, and then in just a little bit, Derek Chauvin is the only one on him. He's got his knee on his neck. That's all obvious. He's screaming, "I can't breathe." Pavement's probably hot. He's obviously, it's obvious the man is, he's got him subdued. And I seen police brutality there. I absolutely did. And like I said, it was hard to watch. And he should have been convicted of something. I'm thinking, involuntary manslaughter. And I guess that's what this second degree unintentional murder is. Now, in different states, the laws read a little different, but they mean the same thing, maybe as some other states, but they call it something else. Now, I don't know the second degree unintentional manslaughter. I don't, unintentional murder, I'm sorry. Second degree unintentional murder. Now, I don't know if that's the same, would be the equivalent to manslaughter, unintentional manslaughter or not. But, like I said, It should have been handled different. I've never been a cop, okay, but I've been on the other end of. I have had them bracelets on me before, and I'm telling you, I'm an ordained minister now, folks. I wasn't born on a church pew. Okay, I've had confrontations with law enforcement. I've been pulled over drunk as a dog. Okay, and never had a DWI. Okay, um, I wasn't born on a church pew. I was a pretty rowdy person in the old days. I'm only telling you this. I'm only saying that to tell you this. I have never been mistreated by law enforcement. Never. And I've been arrested several times. I don't go around preaching that. I don't go around bragging about that, folks, but that's just the facts. And I have complied and I have followed the orders of the law enforcement officer. And you know mainly why? Because I was guilty. I was caught red handed. I was guilty. What's the point? Take it up with the judge. Okay. Now, uh, and there was drugs and alcohol involved practically every time when I had trouble with the law. Okay, back in my old days. Now, it wasn't uh, it wasn't fentanyl. It wasn't heroin. It wasn't anything that I was shooting in my arm. Okay, but it was large amounts of alcohol and other drugs, marijuana, probably a little speed, maybe a quaalude. Uh, but I complied. Now, you know, a lot of these drugs, they'll wire you up, man, and you're just all over the place. And you are hard to handle. But law enforcement is trained to handle these situations. And I, from where I was seeing it and the public was seeing it, uh, Derek Chauvin, that's the only way I know to pronounce his name, Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, Officer Chauvin, went overboard. He could have handled that different. There was no reason to keep his knee in his neck and leave him laying on the ground like that. Okay, at the very least, why couldn't he have set him up and let him sit on the road and lean up against the car? I mean, in a situation like that, it seems to me like you got to give a little bit. You know, you can't just be uh, Mr. Prick Cop and have no kind of compassion for somebody, and that's what I seen. He wasn't threatening the cops' lives. He wasn't threatening their health. He wasn't threatening. I didn't see him threatening any bodily harm whatsoever. He was fired up on this on fentanyl. They found all kinds of drugs in his body. He had heart disease. He had all these things wrong with him, and he would have probably died an early death if this would have never happened because of his drug abuse. However, there's no doubt in my mind what Officer Chauvin did contributed to his death. I really believe that he did contribute to his death. What he done brought on cardiac arrest. That might have happened later on that night. It might have happened the next day, the next week, the next time he got high. Okay, but that would have been out of his hands. That would he would have been totally unattached to that. Now, he should have been arrested and he should have been taken to jail, okay, if he broke the law. But I'm just saying, from where I'm looking at it, Officer Chauvin should have handled that a little different. And the police officers around him should have encouraged him to handle this differently. And therefore, that's why some other ones was charged. But now I will say this, folks. I am pro law enforcement. Let me tell you that right off the bat. I'm not for defunding the police. I am not for putting so many restraints on them where they can't do their job. But I am against police brutality and I am against excessive force. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I understand, what they, from a distance, I understand what they have to deal with day in and day out. Everybody wasn't like me. As you can see today, not very many people comply today. Man, they want to fight with the cops. They want to shoot at the cops. They want to cuss the cops out. They have no respect for the law enforcement at all. If you don't respect that police officer, at least respect the law behind that police officer. The entire government will stand behind this police officer until they are sure he done something wrong. Now, I willingly admit that I have seen a lot of times. I'm 64 years old. I have seen a lot of incidences where I really believe cops should have been prosecuted for even for murder, but they walked. There is, and I think it's starting to be torn down in a lot of departments. I can't paint them all with a broad brush, but in some police departments, there is that code of silence, the blue wall. I believe that there is a lot of cops covered for the criminal actions of other cops. There's no doubt in my mind that that's happened. And a lot of times they'll cover for a cop until he does kill somebody. And then the guys off the force are in prison. And I've always been an advocate of good cops. You can call it ratting on them, you can call it whatever you want. I call it good policing. When one cop sees another cop breaking the law, it's that cop's obligation to stop that right there in its tracks. And if necessary, pull him off of that, or off of the, pull him off of the person, whatever it takes. You're no longer a good cop if you're standing there watching another cop abuse somebody or use excessive force. You're just as rotten as they are. If you're covering for them, lying for them, or standing there watching them do that, you don't intervene. And I don't care if he is your superior. You don't allow, as a police officer, you do not allow police brutality. You intervene, you step in if there's anything to you. But now, Chauvin is going to definitely appeal this, especially after Big Mouth Waters, Maxine Waters, and that stunt she pulled. Clearly give him an avenue for the appeal. Excuse me. She had no business opening her mouth. Now, I didn't see the video exactly what the judge admonished her for, those comments. Uh, but you know, but I will say this: not being a lawyer or any the only affiliation I've had with the law is I've been thrown in jail a few times. But like I said, I've never been abused. And I've had some pretty heavy duty charges on me before. Um, but I never spent no time in prison. And been in the county of Hamilton, but the Lord Jesus has forgiven me for that. That was 30 something years ago, folks. But I feel like I had to say that to validate my opinion on the situation because I've been on both sides. Have I run into cops that's jerks that just thought that they was a cock of the walk? That have I run into cops that once they put that uniform on that they morph into Mr. Prick? Yes, I have. Absolutely. And I treat them just like any other officer, with the exception of maybe once or twice. When I wasn't arrested, I had words with one deputy sheriff one time, and he got reprimanded for it because he was wrong, So, but that's water under the bridge. That's one in hundreds of them. So he's the exception. He's not the rule. And but I called his superior officer, and they took care of it. And they done exactly what I would expect them to do. But just looking at this case on an appeal, I don't look for all these charges to stick. He definitely contributed to the death of George Floyd. He influenced that death by what he done, no doubt in my mind. But I think on an appeal, they're going to narrow this down some. Time will tell, but that's just, and I'm just armchair quarterback in this, from my experience and from what I've seen over the years. But like I say, there has been too many times when police officers have gotten away with police brutality or even murder. But now here's the thing, folks. I do not believe that that cops get up out of bed and go out to kill somebody. I don't believe that. And there's more whites shot and killed by cops than there are blacks. Um, but however, there's more blacks in prison. And there's a breakdown in our society. It shouldn't be, folks. And I don't have all the answers, but I do have one answer, and it's right and wrong. But I don't want to get sidetracked. I want to stay with this. And but I don't know exactly what the numbers is with blacks and whites in prison, but I do believe the majority of them are black and Hispanic. Maybe I don't know. Don't crucify me over that if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I've heard before. But anyway, our entire society has a breakdown, and most of it drug related. Most of our prisons is full of all kind of people because of drugs, and of different levels. But anyway, and one thing that really burns me up about this, folks, and I totally don't understand, is these rioters. Even after they got what they wanted, okay, you got the extremists, you got the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa, all these that there was. out there spray painting in Portland. They're burning the place, they're starting fires, beating windows out of places, spray painting everything. They jumped a police sergeant, and there was a scuffle ensued between a rioter and the police sergeant, and that's uncalled for. There's no sense in that. It accomplishes nothing. I'm surprised there's anything left of Portland, Oregon. What the heck is there left there to burn anyway, or bust the windows out? Uh, you know, I just, it's right here, hours after the verdict, a crowd gathered at the Marco Hatfield Federal Courthouse in Monmouth, no, whatever, County Justice Center, and in Portland, and the rioters began to spray paint in the Justice Center, and two people were arrested allegedly breaking and spray painting the windows in a local coffee shop. They set a dumpster fire, and I don't understand that mentality. With that kind of mentality, okay, it's just like a basketball game. After somebody's team wins the championship, they burn that city down. They bust the windows. They turn cars over. They destroy that city. What the frick is going on with your mental state? Why do that? And people like me look at that, and you want justice. And when justice finally does come your way, you still do this stupid crap, and you put mom and pop out of business. You busting the windows and turning cars over and starting fires of innocent people, and you claim you want justice, and when you get a breath of it, you still do the same thing. You don't want justice. You're a domestic terrorist. You don't want a solution to this. You want a reason to go out there and just do what you do because you're criminals yourselves. It's that simple. You're no better than the cop when you go out and you do that kind of crap. I don't care whether you like it or not. You're a criminal when you go and do that. It solves no problem. That's not a solution. If you really want justice, take the breath of justice you have and build on it. Build on that in your neighborhood, in your community. Don't continue to destroy where you live. It infuriates me when this crap happens and innocent people even die because of this. Just go back last summer and look at what happened. Protesting is one thing, but there all this meanness and vandalism. There's no place for that. And I seen the so we'll have to stand by on the rest of that deal with Chauvin. Man, 24 minutes, and I've only got one case. Now back to Minnesota. Same thing, Minnesota. Y'all about burnt. Y'all meaning Black Lives Matter and Antifa and whoever else is there. I don't know. Is there anything left in Minnesota? Is there anything left to burn? Do you have to bring stuff in to Minnesota now to burn because there's nothing else left from what you criminals done to it over the summer? And it's just a small group of people that's doing this crap. But the mayors and the law enforcement have ordered, you know how it works. The law enforcement has been ordered to stand down and allow them to do this crap. And if you're one of them, you ought to be put in prison over it. But you got this Kim Potter. Now, I don't understand a lot about this case. This case is, I'm an avid shooter. I have my own handguns. I bow hunt. I'm an outdoorsman. I was born and raised around guns, been around them my entire life. I'm a veteran, so I've handled some pretty big guns. 105 howitzer in my day, so I've handled some big guns. She thought she had the taser, and she was hollering, taser, taser, I'm going to tase him, you going to tase him, and she shot him. Now, I've never shot a taser, but I've shot a 1911 semi-automatic handgun, 45, and it's the same platform as a 9mm or a 380 semi-automatic or a 40 caliber semi-automatic handgun. They all function the same. Okay, but now here's what I don't understand. Now she's been on the force. She's a 26-year veteran, Kim Potter, Minnesota Police Department. And I don't know. I would like to see a picture of her in uniform. And I may try to dig one up. All right, she had that service pistol in her right hand. Okay. Now, where does she wear her taser? How can she wear her taser? Does she have room on the right side to also carry her taser? Maybe she does. Maybe it's closer to her hip. I don't know. But even at that, I know the distance between my pocket, front pocket, and hip pocket. I know where I'm reaching. And I don't understand how, and I guess it's possible, okay? I hate to second guess her, but you're looking down the barrel of that gun or that taser. Why can't you see what you have in your hand? You have to point it. Even if you're not aiming, you're pointing it and you're looking the same direction. I understand adrenaline and the excitement of the moment and all the rush of what's going on. But I watched that video. I watched that video twice. Okay, when she stuck that gun in, looked like pretty much in that car with the car door open, and she fired and hit him pretty much point blank. And it was obvious to me that was a service weapon, that wasn't a taser. Most tasers I've ever seen was orange anyway, or yellow. How did she make that mistake? I don't know. But in that case, folks, she's going to be found guilty. Negligent homicide, whatever the state law is there, second degree manslaughter. I think she's going to be found guilty. And also in that case right there, okay, the kid, was he 20 years old, something like that? I didn't even mark his name. Dwayne Wright. put my glasses on. And I feel sorry for his family. Dante Wright. Uh, Lord help his family. And he had a kid, one or two kids. It's sad that this happened. Okay, he had some kind of warrant on him for weapons charge and didn't show up for court. And he had an expired tag, and they pulled him over. They was going to cuff him, and he got loose, got in the car. She reached in and shot him. If he would have only showed up that day at court and went and bought his tags, if he would not have showed up at court and not have bought his tags, if only he would have complied with the police officers, he would be alive today. Them cops didn't get out of bed to go out to kill some black kid or man or woman. If it was a mistake, which I believe for some reason she had a mental block, something happened, and I think it was an accident. But she's going to be found guilty. They will find her guilty of something. This young man's dead. His family, his community is devastated by this. But you know, I understand somewhat what anybody. I mean, like I said, I know over the years police officers have gotten away with this stuff. I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay, but wait until you see what happens, and under no circumstances do you burn your city down and loot. There's no reason for burning and looting. You just become criminals yourself. What does that solve? Nothing. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, that instills fear in them." You know, if we tear the city up and we burn the city down, they're going to do the right thing. But here's the thing, folks. That thinking is warped, because even when a law enforcement officer, and I don't care if he's black or white, it don't matter to these people that's burning and looting and BLM and Antifa. Color of the cop don't mean nothing to them. Even when a police officer is justified, if a black person is shooting at him and the cop is defending himself and shoots and kills him in self-defense, and it's blatant self-defense, they still burn and loot and destroy their city and screaming justice and all this nonsense. And you know, you can't win with these kind of people. What's the solution? I tell you what the solution is to start with is you got to change your politicians to start with, because these people don't care about your neighborhoods. They don't care about nobody but yourself. Number two, the seniors in these communities, black, Hispanic, white, I don't care what they are. You know, I hate even making this a racial issue, but they've already made it a racial issue, so I'm going to talk about it as a racial issue. The seniors in these neighborhoods are going to have to start rising up. There's got to be some leadership coming from your clergy. And what I've seen out of a lot of the clergy, they're getting they're taking sides with the people burning the cities down. What kind of nonsense is that? You know, you have to rein yourself in and stop this nonsense. You know, and you know what you're doing ain't doing nobody a bit of good. And now you got this 13-year-old kid down here in Chicago shot. I watched the video on that. And I don't know anything about Adam Toledo. 13-year-old young man running around with to me he's a kid, running around with a 21-year-old man, friend of the family, hood. I don't know who he is he's running with. Where's his parents? Does he have any parents? I don't know the kid's home life. I don't know. He wasn't a black kid. He was. I don't know what his nationality was. Could have been Italian. I don't know. He's a light-skinned kid, from what I can tell now from the video footage that the cop had. But there's another situation where a split-second decision cost that boy his life. He's 13 years old, running from the law with a gun in his hand. He's been shooting that night because there's residue, gunpowder residue on his skin and on the glove. So he's definitely been shooting at something or somebody. There's a video from somewhere else. The 21-year-old guy is shooting 7 or 8 shots at something right out there in the street. And apparently the kid was shooting it at something. So 13 years old, he's running from the law. He's got this gun in his hand. What's he doing out there that time of night anyway? That must be a breakdown somewhere. Maybe his family, maybe his mom and dad had to be at work to provide for the kid and his family. I don't know what the deal was. But the kid had no business out in the street running with a 21-year-old with a handgun at whatever time of night it was. There's a terrible breakdown there somewhere. And 13 years old, he's holding on to that gun, probably not even thinking. And the cop runs him down, and you can see in the video from the body cam of the cop, the gun he's kind of quartered toward the cop, but you can see the gun behind him. And then the kid drops the gun and comes up with his hand at the same time. Looked to me like he dropped the gun and come up to surrender. And that cop had no idea that boy had dropped that gun. I don't think that cop had any idea. I think the cop thought the kid was going to shoot him. So, and it's sad. It's terrible. I would not want to have to live with killing an adult, let alone a 13-year-old kid. This cop's life's destroyed. One, you got a 13-year-old dead, and you got a cop's life's destroyed. Convicted or not, that's going to impact him the rest of his life. And so, that the way I see that may be up in the air. I don't know if they'll find him guilty or not. But the political climate is not fair for anybody. Anybody should want somebody to have a fair trial. Okay, and I don't quite understand how there's somebody that lost a kid. I mean, I would hope that even this kid's parents would want the cop to have a fair trial, okay, instead of revenge. And but there's a whole family destroyed because non-compliance with the law enforcement. Everyone practically. Let's go out on a limb. 99% of your police shootings, regardless black, white, don't matter, could be 99% of them could be have different outcomes if people, even if you're a criminal, you get caught, comply. Just comply. Take your medicine. Go talk to the judge, whatever. Go to prison, go to jail. Whatever it takes, get back out and try again. Stop this nonsense. You know, don't blame the police officers. When people don't comply and they try to take the life or do bodily harm of a police officer, and the police officer's defending himself, don't blame the cop. That's another problem with this whole situation and with these people involved that's burning and looting the city. You know, it doesn't matter to them the circumstances of the situation. A cop killed a black person, period. It don't matter the circumstances. The facts be danged. Folks, that's destroying. That affects everybody. That even affects me. Okay, because it just breaks my heart to see these kids, to see people throw their lives away in crime. And if the drugs don't kill you, then there's, worst case scenario is you run into a cop and you have a confrontation with him and you lose. There's just so much of this that when I was a criminal, I was a totally different kind of criminal, folks. First of all, I was a low-level criminal, but I never understood trying to get away from a police officer when he had you. I never understood trying to hurt a police officer because I knew they knew me. They could find out who I was. They knew where I lived. They're eventually going to get me. So what's the point? Do you think you're going to get away from the cops and run for the rest of your life and never be caught? That ain't going to happen. 99% of these police shootings would stop if you comply. Just comply. If the police officer does something wrong, then you address that down the road. You get your lawyer and you sue the city, you sue the cop, you sue the mama, whoever you got to sue. But folks, we got to change our mentality here in this country. You can't defund the police. And then when you have trouble, call the police to come and help you. They're like Maxine Waters when she shot her mouth off. When she went to this BLM rally or whatever it was, she calls for police escort. And then in that rally, we got to be more confrontational, blah, 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 defund the police. So, folks, that's just my 2 cents from where I'm at, the experience I've had with law enforcement, so what I have to offer has some value to it. Like and subscribe, folks. Like and subscribe to my channel here, and you'll get more of this. But I'm telling you straight up, folks. If you have a brush with the law, even if you're guilty, hey, make that cop's day. Okay, just yes or no, sir. Let him cuff you, stuff you in the car, keep your mouth shut, get you a lawyer and go see the judge and hash it out. There's no sense in all this fighting with the police. I watch, I, 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 I watch Waco and Ruby Ridge. In Waco, they're in Waco, Texas, with David Koresh. I followed that from day one. I didn't know who the Branch Davidians was until Bill Clinton stuck his nose in their business. I watched all the hearings. The BATF, they're as corrupt as the FBI. They're a bunch of murderers. U.S. Marshals are murderers. They're not all of them. I'm not painting them all with a broad brush. But those that was involved in this incident, in both incidences, law enforcement escalated that situation and got the deadly outcome they got. It's that simple. Okay. I'm not always on the side of law enforcement. When you're wrong, you're wrong. I don't care who you are. David Koresh in the Waco deal, you can go back and you can watch all the tapes and you can dig. There's a lot of information out there on Waco and Ruby Ridge. Randy Weaver had an arsenal of firearms. I'm sorry, well, they got him for selling sawed-off shotgun. I mean, David Koresh, yes, he did have an arsenal. He had Hellfire trigger mechanisms on his long guns. Okay, on his AR-15s or whatever he had. It's just a rapid fire trigger mechanism is all it is. It's not a machine gun. Okay, he offered to bring the BATF in and show them his weapon. He had coffee with the sheriff because his car was broke down, had it in the shop. He walked to town to the store and whatever, and have coffee with the local sheriff. Okay, he was a nutcase for sure. He was a kind of a Jim Jones mentality kind of guy. The cult leader, there's no doubt it was a cult. All right, but they trumped up. Then after that, he offered to give them to show them all that stuff. They needed another avenue to get in there. Okay, then they trumped up this child molesting, child abuse thing. Okay, the Waco Welfare Department went to his house on several occasions, went to the Davidian compound. And I watched, and I remember it like yesterday. I watched that woman from the welfare that went there. She testified to Congress and said they give her the run of the place. They let her talk to all the kids, all the women, all the men, everybody. She's seen no child abuse whatsoever. No beatings on them kids, no bruises, no belt marks, no sexual assault. And I don't know how many trips, but the FBI and the BATF, I don't know what their motivation was to do them people that way. But they wound up bringing them tanks in and gassing them, setting the place on fire. They say David Koresh set the fire. I don't care who said it. Okay. But the FBI and the BATF escalated that situation because they wanted it. The federal government wanted that. Janet Reno wanted that. And that's why it escalated to that. And nobody prosecuted. All the cops, all them dead children, all them dead people murdered. And they all got away with it. That's the kind of crap I've seen. Randy Weaver, okay, goes off and lives off the grid. He's got a wife, got a little baby, got a 13-year-old son, the U.S. Marshal shot in the back because he had orders: if anybody comes out of the house and they're carrying a gun, shoot them. They shot his 13-year-old son in the back because he was carrying a long gun down his side when he come out of the house to go to the shed, I believe it was. And Randy, the gunfire started, and they was running in the house. That's what it was. They was running in the house. Randy Weaver's wife was holding the door open for him to get inside. They shot Randy's friend. I forget what his name was. He was in the house. They shot him. They shot his son in the back. Okay. Randy Weaver runs in the house. Ron Horauchi, FBI sniper. Was he BATF? He's FBI sniper. I believe he was. He was either FBI or BATF sniper. Shot through that door and blowed his wife's brains out. Intentionally blowed her brains out. And you know what happened? They made an instructor out of a piece of murderous crap. Nobody was prosecuted. Randy Weaver, they settled a $5 million lawsuit with Randy Weaver after it was all said and done. Oh, we're sorry we killed your family off. Here's $5 million. How's that? Never admitting to doing anything wrong. Now, folks, that's definitely police brutality, excessive force. So, I don't always take the law enforcement side, but I am pro law enforcement. But I'm still burnt up to this day over that because nobody was prosecuted. And in both cases, the government could have walked right in, compromised with them, talked to them. Well, they didn't even have to compromise with David Koresh. He's like, come on in. He told the BATF, I'll show you everything I got. Just come on in. And they shot through the door, and that's what started it all. So, folks, that's my 2 cents. Like I said, I think what little bit I have experience with law enforcement, it does hold some value. But, folks, I'm telling you, we can't live in a society of chaos. We can't live in a society where we have no law enforcement. At some level, at some degree, every society is going to have criminals. It's just human nature. At some level, you're going to have a criminal element in your society. I don't want to have to deal with it myself. I'm going to call the cops, and if it's an immediate situation, I have to do what I have to do to preserve my own life for my family. Okay, we have to protect our own self in an immediate situation. But folks, this just ain't the way to do it. Communities now need to start coming together, and you can't go overboard either. And like a lot of what's going on now in some of these cities, the flip side of what's going on, the opposite of the excessive force, is letting criminals burn and loot the cities. These politicians and the cops is made to stand down. And I don't know how you could. I would just quit my job. If I was told don't intervene and stopping my city from being burned down, I would walk off the job. I'd throw my badge down and my gun. I would quit that day and say, all right, you deal with it, Jack. I'm not been part of this. And a lot of them have been police officers on the verge of retirement, and they're put to this kind of pressure, by the politicians. So, folks, I've almost got an hour in. My supper's probably ready. I love you. God bless you. Like and subscribe. And, I don't know everything, but I know a little bit about a lot. This is Les Skimo. Love you. God bless you. And leave your comments, and good or bad. I want to hear what you think. And, you know, let me know how you feel about it. So, this is Les Skimo. And until the next time, I'm out of here.